So today we're doing section 7.3. This is the first time you're seeing this new word, factoring. Factoring is basically the opposite of distributing. So on Monday you learned to single distribute and to double distribute. Today we're going to learn to factor. It just undoes distributing. So today we're going to undo just single distributing, and we're going to do it using the greatest common factor. So our goal is to factor polynomials using the GCF. So it's a combination of what we did in 7.1 and in 7.2. Any questions before we get started? Okay, you don't need to write these down. I want you to put your pencils down and whatever else is distracting you at the moment and check out these two problems. So the first problem is like a problem you would have seen on Monday, right? You have a monomial times a binomial. All you would do is distribute the monomial to both terms in the binomial. So what's 3x times 4x? 12x to the second. Good. Keep the minus sign. What's 3x times 7? 21x. Good. So that's the old way we were doing it. Here's the new way. I'll give you something like this. See, it's the same thing as we just got. And you would first find the greatest common factor between 12x squared and 21x. It ends up being 3x. I'll just spoil it for you. So you write the GCF in the front, and then you divide each term by the GCF. So what is 12 divided by 3? 4. If you had two x's and we're taking one of them out, how many would you have left? Just one, just x. Minus, here you took both x, you took the only x out, so we don't have to worry about the x's. And 21 divided by 3 is 7. This is what we're doing today. So do you see how it's the complete reverse as what we learned in 7.1? So instead of multiplying through by a number, you're going to divide everything by a number. And that number is going to be the GCF. Any questions so far?
Okay, why did you do that? Where did you get 3x?
I got 3x because I looked at these two numbers and I found the GCF.
How?
I just did it in my head.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I knew it was going to be that because I wrote these problems to be the opposite of one another. But normally you do like the 1 and the 12, the 2 and the 6, the 3 and the 4. What we learned in 7.2. Okay? So here is what I want you to write down. This says, today, instead of multiplying every term by something, we are going to divide every term by its GCF. So I'll give you a minute to quietly write that down. And then we will look at 5 examples for today. Then we'll pause and pick it up after the weekend. All right, so here's number 1. The first step is to find the GCF. So, shh, quiet guys. Off to the right, write the terms. You can go get a drink. Oh my. Okay. Focus. So, here are 2 terms. We have 2x and 6. The ways to make a 2 are 1 and 2, and then you have an x. The ways to make a 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. What is the largest number that's in both? 2. Do they have any variables in common? No. So 2 is our GCF. So you're going to start by writing a 2 in the beginning of your answer line. Then I am going to divide each term by that 2. What is 2 divided by 2? 1, and then you have the x. 1x is the same thing as x. Plus, what is 6 divided by 2? 3. Close those parentheses, and you're done. If you want to check your work, you distribute like we did in 7.1 and see if you end up with where you started. So if I distribute, what is 2 times x? It's 2x. What's 2 times 3? 6. So you'd end up right where you started, okay? So that's how you can check your work. It's the opposite of distributing. We're undoing distributing. So you're dividing by a number and you're writing that number out front. The opposite of multiplying through by whatever was in the front. So we're just undoing what we did in 7-1. What are your questions? All right, here's number 2. So go ahead and write this one down. As you're writing these down, get out your factor sheets if you haven't already. And compare the lists for 15 and 6.
Okay, I don't.
All right, so what's the greatest common factor? 3 is in both. Do they have any variables in common?
Yes.
X. So I am going to pull a 3x out of each number. So I'm going to write a 3x in the front. I'm going to go back through and divide by 3x. What was your question?
You have to do what you doing right now?
Uh-huh. You don't have to write this list. I don't need to see that. But this and this I do need to see. What is 15 divided by 3? 5. And you had x squared. That's 2 x's, right? But you're pulling one of them to the front. So how many x's do you have left?
1.
Just 1. So 5x minus, in the back you had 1x, but you're pulling it out, so you can cross the x's out. Don't worry about those. What is 6 divided by 3? 2. Close it up. Box it in. You're done. If you want to check to see if that is correct, just distribute it back out and see if you end up right here, which you will. I promise. Raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, here is number 3. I'm not going to make a list because you can see what each term is made of. The first one's made of an x, the second one's made of an xy. So what do they have in common? An x. So I'm going to write an x in the front. Open up a set of parentheses. And then I'm going to divide everything by an x.
It's just going to be 1.
Careful, we need a placeholder here. What is anything divided by itself? 1. You have to have that 1 placeholder. If not, when you distribute, this term will have completely disappeared. So if you're taking everything away from a term, you're pulling it all out to the front, make sure you leave a placeholder of a 1. All right? Back here you had an x, but you're dividing an x out. So what do you have left? Just the y. You could write a 1y if that makes you feel better. But there you go. If you distribute x times 1 is x, and x times y is xy, so you do end up right where you started. Raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, here's number 4. I'll give you a second to write it down. That's a minus. So over here I have 2x. Over here I have 6x squared. The ways to make a 2 are 1 and 2, and you have the x. 6 is a 1 and 2, 2 and 3. And xx. What's the biggest number?
2.
So variables?
X.
All right, so I am going to factor out a 2x. What do each of the terms also have? They both have a what? A negative. So really you could factor out a negative 2x. That's what I'm going to do. It's going to make what's left in the parentheses a little bit neater. On your homework, if you ever forget to factor out a negative, it is not the end of the world. It's kind of a hard thing to pick up on until you get really good at these. But since this is the example we're doing together, I'm going to do it the absolute correct way. Factor out a negative 2x. What is negative 2x divided by negative 2x?
Negative 1.
Negative 1 or 1?
1.
1. You're taking the negative out. Good. You're factoring it out to the front. So you're dividing that term by itself. Any number divided by itself is a 1. A negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive, so you can go ahead and write the plus. What is 6 divided by 3? Ah, I did it. Ugh. What is 6 divided by 2?
3.
Oh, I hate when I do that. Okay, sorry. What is x squared divided by x?
X.
X. You had 2 of them. You're taking 1 out to the front. Good. And we are done. Something like this where you're changing the signs and you're pulling out x's too. I would distribute back to see if it works. Negative 2x times 1 is negative 2x. And negative 2x times positive 3x is negative 6x squared. So we are good. What are your questions? All right, so the last example for today, we need to find the GCF between 15x and 20xy. So we have 1 and 15, 3 and 5, x. We have 1 and 20. Hey guys, shh, almost done, but not quite, so shush. All right, what's my GCF? 5 and x. So I am going to pull a 5x out of each term using division. What is 15 divided by 5?
30.
3. And you had 1x and you're pulling out 1x. So what? How many x's do you have?
1.
What? You had 1, you took 1 away.
Yeah.
0. Okay, so you got no x's up there. Plus, what is 20 divided by 5?
4.
4. And you had an xy, but you're taking the x to the front.
So it's just 1.
So it's just y. Good. All right, raise your hand if you have any questions about 1 through 5. Now, with a couple of shortened schedules, this is all we're going to get to today. But Monday when you walk in, you're going to get your notebooks right out. Example 6 will be on the board. We're going to jump right into example 6. There are 10 examples scheduled for the first day, but the first day is actually taking us 2 days. So we'll get to number 10 on Monday, and then you'll have your first homework assignment over factoring the GCF. Any questions on what to expect in here?